This is a Leadership Breakdown podcast. I'm Kylie Ota, intuitive business strategist and leadership coach. I'm here to break down the strategies for leadership and to address the breakdown that is happening in our leadership today. So let's break it down, shall we? Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Breakdown podcast. I'm your host, Kylie Ota, and I'm so excited to have Susie deVille joining me today. Susie is an entrepreneur and a visionary leader who has developed this really cool, powerful framework called the 5 M's. If you follow me for any season of time, you know I love my alliteration because it helps people remember. And anyway, it's going to be a game changer for those of you out there who are just feeling stuck, burnt out, or possibly overwhelmed in your business journey, your leadership journey, and you want to, you're in a place where you're feeling stuck and overwhelmed, and Susie is going to help you break out of that with the 5 M's. So, without further ado, Susie, tell us more.
So let me start first with what the 5 M's are. And if you have a piece of paper handy and a pen, I want you to take some notes. And before I start to go into this, I want you to have a defense against your brain, which is going to tell you, I don't have time to do these things, or it sounds too complicated. And this is not going to work for me. All the things that the brain likes to tell us, because the brain is wired for scarcity and survival,
Right.
and not creativity and abundance. But the 5 M's are actually going to help you rewire your brain for abundance and creativity, as well as ease and flow and joy and calm and all the good things. So number 1 M is morning pages. And if you follow Julia Cameron, who is the author of the book, The Artist's Way, she created this wonderful practice that all you have to do is get a notebook of any kind. Don't fall into the trap that you have to have some kind of special journal. Just get a notebook and sit down, and you can start with writing 3 pages of longhand in this journal. Now, if you don't have enough time to do that, just start with 1 page. But this is essentially a brain dump, all of the sort of weird thoughts and ideas and things that your mind is telling you that may be a limiting belief or a painful thought. You get all of that onto the page. So it is a wonderful way to begin your day with a lot of clarity and peace, and this sense of being in control of your destiny.
Yeah.
So the next one is...
Well, I have a reframe for the people who think they don't have enough time. I'm thinking like the time that you would have used to text your best friend about something that's bothering you, that could be your time to dump it onto your morning page. And then one, you're not polluting the air, because right, when we feel something, it'll spread. Because I know my friends will commiserate with me if I'm, in a mood. So anyway, just saying, if you don't have time, instead of going to social media and posting on your Facebook page, do your morning pages. Okay,
yes.
Go ahead.
Or morning page for the ones who want to start in the, in the easier side of things.
Yeah.
But I love what you said, because this is a dialogue between your intellect and your soul. Our intellect runs the show all the time, and that's great. But the soul is just desperate for us to hear it. So morning pages, as well as the rest of these M's, help you begin to reconnect and hear yourself think, as well as hear your soul's callings. So the second one is meditation. Now, everybody, when they hear that word, thinks, oh my gosh, I've tried to meditate. I can't meditate. It's going to take too long, blah, 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 blah. All you have to do is sit in a room that is quiet and dark for 5 minutes. That you don't have to have a certain kind of process. There's all kinds of ways to meditate, but this is a great way to start if you've never meditated before, or you've tried and it didn't work out. The biggest challenge that you're going to have is sitting still for 5 minutes. And we think, how hard can that be? Well, it turns out it can be pretty hard because, again, our brain wants to tell us to get up and do the thing, the whole
Right? Our
list
brains
of
are
all
like
the to
little
dos.
toddlers, like sit
Yes,
still. And it's like, no.
exactly. The toddler that's riding on the back of a wild horse, right? So your meditation can be very short, and it's enough to reset your central nervous system and just give you some more spaciousness so
Yeah.
that there is a bigger awareness or more intense awareness of what it is that you really want. We spend a
Yeah.
lot of time chasing lots of things that aren't necessarily what we want. And then when we get those things and we still don't feel good or have reached any kind of sense of happiness or satisfaction, then we're sort of lost and at sea because we're like, well, I did the thing, I got the thing, and I still don't feel good. So what's up with that? So this is a great
Right.
way to start to tune into what you authentically desire and crave. The
Yeah. That's so
next
good.
is movement. And this can be a walk, it can be chair exercises, it can be yoga, a bike ride. But I mean, just again, a short 15-minute walk, if you're not used to having any kind of exercise, you don't need a lot of time. Bring a piece of paper and a pencil, or I always carry like a little pocket journal and slip it in my coat pocket. And I'm amazed at what my brain generates idea wise and clarity wise when I'm moving
Right.
and I don't have any distractions. So it's kind of a fun way to capture some downloads from your best thinking, tapping into some great intuition and imagination. And of course, you're out getting some good exercise, and that makes you feel amazing. And again, you don't have to go that long.
Right.
The next one is moments of inspired learning. And
Mm.
I love this one because I am a fiend for a great inspirational quote. I love reading poetry. I love just
Yeah.
opening a great book and reading a page that's just a reminder of something that I love or a way of thinking that elevates my energy. And so, again, 5 minutes. I have a 5-year journal, and I
Oh.
started this practice this year in January. I used to go into the computer to pull up different things. And what I discovered was if I take my journal out and I look for a quote or something that I think is really interesting, and it just sort of stops me in my tracks, I'll write it down on the day's entry. And then what's happened now, I've been doing this now for, almost a year. What's happening is that these quotes are starting to talk to each other. And I'm finding
Wow.
it not only incredibly fascinating, but I'm in the process of writing my second book. And I'm noticing that I'm starting to connect what had appeared to be disparate dots, and I'm
Mm.
seeing commonalities and I'm understanding things in a much more rich way. So it's helping me create new content. It's helping me with my book, but it's also just helping me feel a greater understanding of the world and what fascinates me. You can pull up your favorite poet and listen to a short poem on YouTube, but just touching base with this sort of ethereal world of other thinkers and creators. It's very
Right.
calming and soothing.
Oh, yeah. And then going back to, I feel like we totally glossed over like your superpower of helping creatives, you know, and when we were talking before this, like I'm a high I, right? I'm an ID, and the creativity and like capturing those ideas, I'm like, oh, bing, bing, bing. And all the ideas are floating around. And I feel like a lot of times as leaders, we have these ideas, because I have a mentor who is full of ideas. I mean, brilliant ideas. And so he's my mentor. And he's like, okay, go execute. I'm like, wait, what did you? And my brain was like, okay, I didn't capture like the implementation process. So I feel like all of these, different aspects of the 5 M's will help us to feel, I mean, if you're a high I, help us not to feel overwhelmed with our thoughts. Because I get that question a lot with my clients. But how do I turn my brain off at night? I can't sleep. I'm suffering from insomnia. How do I turn my brain off at night? And I know for me, like writing things down. I know a lot of people like to journal and stuff in the morning, but the way my energy flow goes, I'm like, I wake up with ideas because I've been permeating overnight and like my brain has rested. I wake up and I'm like, bing, get ideas. And, and sometimes for clients who have issues with insomnia, not being able to put things down at night, like that's your time to journal. Maybe that's the time instead of morning pages, do a midnight page edition or something because you're brain dumping, you're releasing it onto a page. I was like, oh, okay, my brain is clear. And someone also told me that your brain knows that it's been captured. So subconsciously, you're like, oh, it's put down somewhere, like it's filed away. So I can get to it if I need to. Like it doesn't have to stay on the record player. Oh, I feel like I just dated myself. But like
I
CD
totally
player,
get it.
cassette player, yeah.
Well, what you're talking about, I think, is really interesting. And so, for anyone who is a person who turns the lights out and all of a sudden the brain is going 400 miles an hour and you're thinking about things that happen during the day, you're projecting into what's going to happen tomorrow or next week, and you're running these sort of loops in your mind. Your record player is a real thing. And there's wonderful research that points out that when there are open loops in the brain and that information or that question hasn't been captured in some fashion, then the brain continues to try to solve that in the background. So it's like draining random access memory on a computer with too many open tabs.
Mm-hmm.
So you point out very astutely that it is tied to the subconscious mind. The subconscious is the one that's trying to be the plate juggler in the background. And so what we can do is have a very open and frank conversation with the subconscious mind. And I know that sounds a little hokey, but I can promise you it works. So if you find yourself with either ruminating or open loop thinking or lots of ideas, do get your journal out and just free write without lifting your pen from the paper. Just kind of capture everything you possibly can. Then close your book. Know that it's there. You've gotten it all down. And then you can literally say, subconscious mind, thank you. I've got it. It's handled or it will be handled. And now you can help me focus on the one big thing that I want to accomplish tomorrow. So maybe that's this, making a project, further down the field than it was today, or whatever it is that is your big project for the next day. And instead of trying to juggle 50 to-dos, you have one. And of course, you're going to do perhaps more than one thing, but your mind is home and calm and centered and focused on that one big thing. You go to sleep knowing what you're going to jump into the next day. And then you can also have the comfort of knowing that you're going to be able to bring your best creative mind and thinking to the task, and that you can rest and not feel like you have to be vigilant like a border collie guarding sheep all night.
Right. Right. And I like that, and I think, especially for creatives, I mean, there's the different personality types, right? Especially if we're dealing with the disc. I feel like the D, the driven, and especially the C's, right? They're more conscientious about capturing ideas, compartmentalizing, like creating lists. But for the I's, where we have all of these ideas and we don't have the structure in place to help us capture those things. Like these tools that you're giving us today are so great. I mean, that's who you specialize on, right? You specialize with people like us who are hyper creative. And I want to jump into a question now where like, where do creatives fit into the leadership space? Because I know sometimes it can feel like the D's, right? They're driving the business forward, and or whether you're in a workplace, whether you're in your own business, whatever, but those D's, those drivers are driving the work. And I feel like sometimes the I people, although we have great ideas and things, like, oh, well, they're too flighty because they're not reliable, but we have the innovative ideas that the company needs to grow into their next level, but we're not viewed as a strong leader because we don't have, it's not that we don't have a work ethic, we don't have an execution ethic. I want to say that.
Well, actually, you do have an execution ethic. It just
Oh,
doesn't look like somebody else's necessarily.
got it.
So let me tell you the path for the solution, and it's the fifth M. And it's the one that all of my entrepreneur and visionary leader clients fight me on with every fiber of their being. And that
I'm
is
glad you said that because I think the people in the audience would have been like, oh, I'm going to tune out after they hear it,
yes,
right?
I want you to tune in and I want you to suspend disbelief. Give me 5 minutes to change your mind. Okay. Because what this M is making something. Now, do not clutch your chest and fall into the floor. This can be as simple as taking out a notebook and creating a very simple collage. And I'll give you a very practical, fun thing that can get you started on this. All you need is an envelope, a journal, and a glue stick, and some scissors.
Mm.
And I want you to start to collect images, whether they're online or in a magazine or something that you saw on your walk. But I want you to start to pay close attention to what stops you in your tracks, what you notice, what
Right.
gives you that delicious sense of coming alive. It could be a word, it could be a color, it could be a picture that has a scene in it that just totally captures your heart. It can be an inspirational quote. But I want you to start for the first week, just become a collector of these things, cut them out, put them in the envelope. After about a week, you can sit down with your notebook, your glue stick, your scissors, and your envelope of goodies. And you can start just creating, take 1 to 3 of these things out of your envelope and arrange them on the page. It does not have to be art. It does not have to look good. You don't have to like it. The trick, the magic of it is just doing it. And then after you've arranged whatever you're going to stick onto the page, you can write 1 to 3 sentences underneath it. And you can write, what about it inspired you? What is it that's interesting to you? What do you have a question about? What is it that you want to feel as a result of seeing this? What kind of clue might it be giving to you? And that's it, 5 minutes. And you might be thinking, okay, well, how in the world does this create a new path of living and working? What it's doing is it's reminding you of what you love. It's putting you back in contact with the soul that's been tuned out or numbed
Right.
out or stuffed out. So you have an opportunity to create this book And as you are leafing through it to go to the next page, as you are creating this every single day, just like that Moments of Inspired Learning journal that I have, those pages are going to start talking to each other, and they're going to start
Mm-hmm.
talking to you. You're going to now remember what you used to do that you loved, that you stopped when life got busy. You're
Yeah.
going to have a taproot into your intuition, and your problem solving skills are going to get much better. And it is
Mm.
kind of this really interesting thing that happens because you're crossing this threshold into this world of the unknown. And you're having to kind of overcome this critical mind of ours, which we all have, that says it
Mm-hmm.
has to be perfect, or you need to control how it looks, or it has to be beautiful. You must love it for it to count. It's counter to everything that we've been taught. It's not about the outcome, it's about the time spent doing this process of making
Yeah.
something. So I highly encourage folks, it's an easy way to get started, but you can pick one of any of the five M's, whichever one calls to you the most, and start to just play around with it. Because what will happen is you're going to notice there's a new energetic sheriff in town, and you really dig who this person is becoming. And
Yeah.
as a creative person in an organization, you're going to be able to become a better curator and collector of these ideas because the anxiety and the energy in the brain has calmed down long enough for you to actually be able to go, oh, okay, let me think about that. Let me write that one down. Is that
Right.
one that I want to keep? Is that one that I want to pitch to my boss? And you can then create a way of communicating that is in alignment with how the people in the leadership of your organization need to be communicated with. You'll be speaking the
Mm-hmm.
same language. And so you'll not be the beautiful, vivacious, high I who's got an idea every 30 seconds who people aren't paying attention to. You're going to be the captain of your own self at the helm of your own brain. And that is enormously attractive to anybody, but especially leadership. What's
Right.
happening with so and so? All of a sudden, this fount of ideas is now sending me things in ways that I can see and hear and understand what he or she is trying to communicate because we've become a better communicator with ourselves. That's where the key
Yes.
is.
Yes. And I know for a lot of people who are diagnosed or self-diagnosed as ADHD because of this constant idea generation, we've felt like we're, not, we're not able to have the type of power that people who can sift through and be cognizant and when to share, how to share, right? We were the ones that were talking out of turn in school because we're like, I'm bubbling up with this idea. I need to share it now. But I love that you capture them. You have a place to capture them so that we don't look sporadic. It can be very like calculated because right, the best ideas don't come in a vacuum. They don't come linearly. I'm sure like Elon or one of the great innovators of our time or even times before, like the light bulb, or how many different ideas were probably written down on napkins. Like there's so many things written down on napkins, just random ideas and thoughts that come when you're doing something else. That's why I like that you talked about when you're walking, because I don't know about you, my best ideas come in the shower. And I'm so thankful that there's like these things called aqua notes now where you can write things
Yes.
down in the shower. And I mean, I don't know how much my husband likes it. He doesn't complain, but for years, I used my giant mirror in the bathroom as a whiteboard. I have a dry erase marker just for that purpose near the toothpaste. And I write everything on there because while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm like, oh my
Yes.
goodness. And when we're not actively engaging in other things and our bodies are still, that's when the ideas pop up. And I know one of your M's is meditation, and especially for us hyperactive individuals in the audience, are like, how do I sit still for 5 minutes? Like, even when they're working, like they have to pace, like they're very kinesthetic for them to sit and be still. And I think, maybe a transition could be walking, like away from your electronics, away from the stimulation, like go into nature where it's, visually stimulating, but not, mentally stimulating, like maybe kind of wean yourself, kind of like instead of going cold turkey, like do like a walking meditation, something so that you feel like your energy is still able to be expressed, but not. But I know when my coach told me like, oh yeah, or told us as a group, she was like, yeah, you know, sit still for 5 minutes in silence and do nothing. And she's like, it's going to be hard because she's also ADHD as well. Right? She's like, it's going to be hard. And I was like, oh yeah, that's easy. Like, I could totally do it. Like, it was so hard the first time that I had to do it. But when I did it more and more, like you were saying, I felt in control of my brain. I felt like for the first time, I could tell my mind to shut off, be quiet, like, and not in a condescending way. Because I know a lot of us who were, hyperactive, or that's what we were called. Now it's ADHD and all of these all the different diagnoses, but you're like, you're being hyperactive as a child, right? Sit still, like stop moving, like right? All of those things. And when I sat down, I felt like, wow, I do have the power to control my body, to control my mind. And I felt this like inner sense of empowerment, not that I was being controlled, because I was told you should, like, you need to or else. And I used to think that way, like, oh, I need to or else. Like, I'm not going to be successful if I don't do the morning pages. I'm not going to be successful if I don't right? That's not the way to approach these 5 M's. It's to work with yourself. And I'm just coming from the other side of that. Like, if you're the hyperactive type, you're like, these 5 M's, they sound hard. But when you look at it from a sense of empowering yourself and taking control of your brain again, it feels so good and so juicy. It's like going to the gym. Like, it's something you have to do, or just exercising, moving your body. You're like, I don't feel like doing it right now. But the more you engage, the more delicious it becomes. And then you start craving, working out. And then for the 5 M's, you start craving that time. You start craving, oh, I didn't get to meditate today. No wonder my brain is all flippy floppy. I need that quiet time. And you start to, develop that habit. I know that H word is probably not, for the I people, the creatives, like habits. Ugh. But when we think about it as empowering ourselves and being in control of ourselves for once, we're not doing it because someone else told us to. We're taking that personal power back and giving ourselves a break, giving our brains a break that our brains probably haven't had in a really long time. Yeah.
And you're making new neural connections.
Mm-hmm.
New synapses are firing. You're creating new neural pathways. When we engage in the same thought over and over and over again, or the same action over and over again, we are reinforcing neural pathways in the brain. That becomes kind of the default to where we go, just because those ruts are deeper. But
Yeah.
what the 5Ms will help you do, and again, just start with one that sounds like the most fun. And as you develop this practice that's gentle and fun for you and doesn't feel like someone's, cracking a whip on you, but you are taking a stand for your own well-being and for your own success. And this is the very definition of getting your agency back. It is power
Mm-hmm.
over the self. It is not power over other people. It is power over you and your soul and your destiny. And you can become the most incredible creator of the future you desire by making some small changes, because they have this beautiful power of accumulation and effect. As you do just a few at bats, you'll start to notice some things starting to shift. And what you did last week is going to impact this week. And if you keep
Mm-hmm.
going, 1 5-minute practice at a time, you'll end up at the end of a few weeks and you'll notice this is working on me like a fine grit spiritual sandpaper, and it's buffing off these barbs and sharp edges.
Yeah.
And
The
I'm
corns on your
coming,
feet.
yeah,
It's
and
like a
I'm coming
pedicure.
coming home to myself. Like I am
Yeah.
coming back. And I want to go back to something that you mentioned about your mirror in the bathroom, because when we're driving, when we're in the shower, when we're walking, we are touching into what I call the creativity back channels. People who
Mm.
are neuroscientists call it the default mode network. This is where
Mm.
creativity happens. And so
Nice.
each one of these M's connects you to your default mode network in a little bit of a different way. So if you want to have that great, refreshing feeling that you have if you've gone for a swim or a long drive and you've just kind of been lost and you've let the subconscious just kind of have a party, and what you have at the end of a very short period of time is this sense of having touched something that has always kind of felt out of reach for you.
Mhm.
Now, that in and of itself will start to change how you move in the world and the kinds of decisions and choices that you make. And over
Mhm.
time, it builds a propensity for bold action and more courage, more intuition. And then you start to spark serendipity. And now it's wild because the universe, the unified field, whatever you want to call it, is now generating support for you behind the
Mhm.
scenes. And all kinds of things start to happen. Resources show up. Introductions to the very person you needed to speak with comes out of the blue. The
Out
idea
of the
that
blue.
yes. The the idea that you have that um maybe has eluded you in terms of how to enact it all of a sudden becomes clear to you. So when we
Yeah.
talk about creativity, I don't want us to get all hung up on I'm not an artist. I will
Right.
just tell you, by default, you are an artist. It's the definition of artist that is
Right.
off, right? So
Right. Or just
our
definition of art.
and what is art? I used to think that an artist was someone who could reproduce something that from the real world on a piece of paper
Mhm.
in pencil or charcoal or ink or paint. And because I didn't have that skill set, I thought, well, I'm not an artist. And
Right.
therefore, I'm not creative. That's the slippery slope. We are
Mhm.
all enormously creative. And what this practice and series of opportunities for you to cross that threshold into the unknown will give you is a whole new lease on life, as well as how to lead your organization, lead your startup, lead your life. So I
Mm-hmm.
hope that you will give it a try. And if you get stuck, please, you know, check out how to get in touch with me. I am happy to help you get unstuck. I always do free 30-minute sessions. If you're plugging along and you're trying and something is just not clicking, let me know. I'm happy to help.
Yes, and everything to get in touch with Susie is going to be in the show notes. So don't worry, just click below. You'll get access to all of that, and including like how to get access to her 5 M's and just how to integrate that practice into your day. Like she said, you don't have to do all five. I know all you overachievers listening right now, you're going
Yes.
to try to do all five. But for those, and then when you're stuck, just go back to one. Choose one that feels like your favorite. Start there and then habit stack, put them all together and just choose the way that works for you, you know? So, anyway, this was such a stimulating conversation. I mean, it's
Thank
great to
you.
talk to other eyes in the network because I think as leaders, the visionary leaders, the eyes, right? We think differently, we innovate differently. And I'm so glad we have a space that these ideas are appreciated now, especially with leaders like Elon, whether you agree with his politics or not, but the way that he creates and innovates, that's definitely an I trait, in my opinion.
Well, and I would say that anyone who has maybe been put into the margins because maybe they were too chatty in class, or the organization isn't valuing how they communicate their ideas, or whatever it has manifested as. What I want to impress upon everyone here is that it's your innovative mind, it's your differences from the rest of the world that we need more now than possibly ever in our history. So the
Yes.
trick is to get that brilliance into a form that can be consumed and understood and comprehended. And the path, I will tell you, is to slow down, communicate with the soul, do one or more of the 5 M's. And if you need a little bit more guidance, I go into it. I have exercises in my book, Buoyant, and that will help you feel like you've got a partner on this journey and you're not all alone by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing with us your book, Buoyant, and just the visualization of that. Like it's buoyancy is literally being on top, and how we can
And
take that. Yeah.
this sense of, if you're in a wave in the sea
Mm.
and
Mhm.
you're just, or you're in a boat, but you have this
Mhm.
sense of, I don't have to over control to stay afloat. I can just surrender into this wave, surrender into this moment. And the best part of this experience has nothing to do with my achieving or perfecting or controlling. The best part is going to that default mode network, because we've all had that beautiful sensation, and that is buoyant. And that
Yes.
is a opportunity to, at any time, in any moment, come back to yourself and put yourself back at the helm and reclaim your agency.
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh, this was such a great conversation today. Thank you, Susie, for being on the podcast. And everyone listening, go ahead, go down to the show notes, grab her book, get in touch with her, and start on one of the M's, please. Comment below if which one of the M's you're going to start with, and Susie and I will be here to cheer you on. So again,
Absolutely.
thank you for listening to another episode of the Leadership Breakdown podcast, and we'll see you guys again next time. Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Breakdown podcast. If you're ready to break free from the overwhelm and finally create the impact you've been working so hard for, I want you to grab the Leadership Legacy Playbook. This guide gives you the exact strategies to lead with purpose and leave your mark on the world. Don't keep putting off the legacy that you want to build. Grab the link in the show notes and start building your legacy today.